Hi, my name is Mark Hughes, and I'm talking to you from my quarantined workroom at Regalia Handmade Clothing in beautiful Eureka Springs, Arkansas. We have been sewing for the last couple weeks, making face masks for people to use in our neighborhood and for healthcare workers as well. We've been making this design. It's the cotton calico version that has two rectangles that are cut 6 inches by 9 with pieces of elastic. Apparently elastic is the new toilet paper and no one can find it anymore, and all our bulk orders have been canceled, so we've moved on. Luckily we're in a tourist town and people have a wealth of t-shirts, and there's distributors that have given us some misprinted shirts to cut up into face masks, so we are reworking the design. This one, there is a tutorial on YouTube that shows you how to sew this design from the beginning. There's another tutorial that we made that shows you how to use your rotary cutter and set up your sewing room for mass production of these in the event that you still have access to 1/4 inch elastic. We do not, but we're still going to use these because we've discovered that we can use the strips that we cut from the t-shirts as ties for that mask, so we're still using these for now. But I want to show you today a version of the mask that can be made completely out of the t-shirt. In fact, you can get 2 masks per shirt. Here's what you can get. This is the 2-layer mask with the knit ties, and this style and size can be worn over the N95 hospital grade mask, as you see right here. On its own, it's not that effective, but covering the N95, this can be washed and therefore it prolongs the life of the N95. For citizen use, we're making a 4-layer version out of the t-shirt knit, and the logo, if you happen to have that still on the shirt, can be put right in the middle for a little bit of extra protection. This also has the knit straps, no elastic involved. The new dimension to cover the N95 and also for the citizen's mask is now 7 inches tall cut and 9 inches wide. So we've actually made these 1 inch taller from the calico ones we were making in the previous tutorials. So I'm going to set these aside and show you this. These are the calico masks that we were making with the knit as well. So don't throw away your calico just because you're out of elastic. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I've got 2 pattern pieces that I've made out of cotton calico because I find that it grips the t-shirt without sliding around like a paper pattern would do. So I'm going to cut it right over that logo, which is in the upper portion of the shirt. Don't worry about the fact that I'm only getting that out of the top because I wouldn't get 2 side by side anyway because of the sleeve seams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the shirt down, take out my rotary cutter, and cut this piece out. I'm going to slide this down so I can finish this. Cutting side, cutting across the top. Now don't worry about wasting the rest of this shirt because we found that our local animal shelter can actually sell these to a local recycler and actually make money for every pound they sell. So all of my scraps go to them anyway, and all of these will go to the animal shelter when we're done. I'm setting aside my 2 layers of logo there that I've cut, and now I'm going to come on down and I'm going to cut out 2 side by side now, which actually gives me 4 pieces total. There. Move this one a little bit closer, like so. Rotary cut. It's important that you cut horizontally across the shirt because you'll find out when we do the straps that the direction of the fabric matters, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Cutting the side, center, side. Taking up my pattern pieces, putting them aside, done with those. Now what I've got is 3 stacks of 2 layers of shirt. Scraps away. Now I'm going to take what's left, which is the hem, flip it over so that my fresh cut is lined up at the bottom of my rotary mat here. I'm going to come to my ruler and find 1.5 inches lay that on the cut edge and cut the rest of this into 1.5 inch strips. Probably can get one more, but I'll cut that later. Now what the straps are, I've got 2 layers of strap here. I'm going to come to the sides with my scissors and snip and snip, and that gives me 2 pieces to use on one mask. Likewise here and here. So what I'm going to do later is I'm going to put one mask together that is just 2 layers, and then I'm going to use these 2 for a 4-layer mask, or you could make 3 masks that are 2 layers if they're going to hospital workers to cover the N95. What I'm going to do at this moment is I'm going to put all of these dark colors aside and bring out this lighter one for the sake of letting you see what I'm up to here. Okay, so I've got 2 layers. There's my logo. I'm going to peel it open, and I'm going to put them right sides together now, lining them up carefully at the top and bottom. There, top, there, bottom, sides. I'm going to bring this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to use a straight stitch to sew these together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back stitch. From the needle to the edge of my presser foot is a 1/4 inch, so I'm laying the cut edge of the mask along the edge of the presser foot and coming all the way down to the bottom. Don't worry about the fact that you need a stretch stitch for this knit, because we're going to give it that in just a second. But for now, here's what we have. Turn it over, do the bottom, 1/4 inch seam allowance, all the way down. Snip, snip. Now I'm going to turn this right side out. And here's an important part. When you go to roll this out and flatten it, it's very important that you roll your seam allowance all the way out, because you don't want to diminish the dimension of the mask when it's finished. This needs to be about 6 inches when it's done. So what I'm going to do now, and you can work with on the top or the bottom, either way, just roll that out, put it back in the machine so that we can do a row of top stitching, a 1/4 inch from the finished edge this time, and I'm also going to switch to a very small zigzag, not very wide, just enough to be stretchy when this goes over the face and doesn't break the seam. Now I can also put my hand inside here and roll this seam allowance out and hold it down with my other hand as it's going through. That makes it a whole lot easier than trying to roll this out when your fingers have lost their grip, as mine have done after sewing 100 or so of these. Coming all the way down. There. Now I'm going to come to the other side, roll this out, 1/4 inch zigzag, hand in, roll out, press down, top stitch all the way down. Take it out of the machine, snip. Now I'm going to lay this out flat, raw edges lined up together on each side. Normally we did the 3-pleat system on the calico mask, but for this one, to go over the N95, we're just going to do 2 pleats, and I'm going to put a pin in the center, and I'm going to bring this pleat over to it and use that pin to hold that pleat. Then I'm going to pleat the other side facing it. This is what seamstresses call an inverted box pleat. You can see that it goes in that way. Come around to the other side, find my center, pleat, and pleat the other side. And no matter what kind of hurry you're in, clip your threads, get them out of the way. Neatness counts, even in a pandemic. Okay, so now I have a measurement here, and I'm going to check this, and that's about 2.5 inches, which is optimum. Any bigger than 3 inches for this pleated side, it's going to not fit correctly, so try to stay between 2.5 and 3 inches. I'm going to pick up my strap pieces. I'm going to hold them gently in the middle. I'm going to give it just a little bit of a tug to see which way it wants to roll. I don't want to roll it up just yet, but I do want to know which way it's curling. It's curling down and away, which means I've got the wrong side of the fabric on top. I'm going to lay the mask on it, matching up my raw edges, bring them to the machine. Now don't worry about sewing the strap at this point. We're basically just sewing the mask to the strap at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And this can be a straight stitch. It doesn't matter if it's zigzag anymore. Pull out the pins and at 1/4 inch seam allowance, sew the mask to the strap, back stitch, and pull out trim threads. Now, what I'm going to do here is with the mask face up, I'm going to roll the strap out. I'm going to give it a little bit of a tug to watch it curl. It's going to curl in on itself, which is what I want. Then I'm going to roll it onto the mask, covering up the seam allowance that I just did. Back to the machine. Now again, no sewing up here because once we're done, that will not unravel in the washer because it's a knit fabric. Don't worry about that. Back stitch, curl the rest of it over. Back stitch and out, trim threads. Trim threads. And let's do the other side so I can walk you through it one more time. Hold the strap, gentle stretch to see where it curls. Lay that on. 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. Now notice I'm almost done, so the time it's taking me to show you this in a tutorial is literally the time it takes me to make one. Now I'm rushing through and I've made a few, so give yourself, a half an hour to an hour to make that first one, but then after that you'll be cranking. So now I'm going to give a little bit of tug, curl it up on itself, roll it over the seam allowance, back to the machine. Use the strap to pull yourself into the machine where you need to be. Back stitch, curl that over, back stitch, and we're done. Trim your threads. Now, here's the mask. Give a little bit of tug to these straps to curl them up. And here's how it goes on. It's going to open up. It's going to lay on your nose. It's going to tie up here on the top. I tie this one in a knot. Open it up under the chin. Tie it back here behind your neck in a bow or a knot. I like the way this one fits. It's very comfortable being knit fabric. And what I really like is that I can just lift this down if I need to take a breather, take a drink, whatever. Then I can quickly lift it back into place, but I can wear it during the day and have it ready if someone comes to the door or something. It's a very nice, easy, light design. Make the 2-layer for hospital people that have an N95 they want to prolong the life of. Make the 4-layer version for your friends. And everybody wear a mask. I think that's all I have to tell you at this moment. I hope you all... Oh, I do have one thing to say. We have a tutorial for how to make this very same mask without a sewing machine, and it's geared for kids. So if you're shut in isolation right now and you want to make these with your family, there is a tutorial on how to do that without the sewing machine using old t-shirts. So everybody get to sewing, everybody stay well, the storm will pass, then come to Eureka Springs, Arkansas and see us. Thanks for being here. Keep calm and stitch on. What's happening?